Pope Francis signed his new encyclical Fratelli Tutti this morning. It's a diagnosis of our social ills, which have been complicated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Francis has said for months now that we can't go back to the way that the world was before the pandemic. This is our chance to build a new society based on loving our neighbor. In Fratelli Tutti, he lays out his vision for what that society could look like. So here are our top 5 takeaways from Fratelli Tutti. For Pope Francis, there's more than one pandemic in the world right now. There's COVID-19, but there are also pandemics of inequality and xenophobia. And these come from this individualistic attitude that says, I only need to care for myself and my family, where we prioritize building our own wealth and living comfortably, and other people, especially people who are struggling or are different from us, become an inconvenience. And this leads to big problems when we expand it to a global scale, where the wealthy exploit the poor, economic inequality grows, and while exciting progress happens in some places, the poor and the elderly and the disabled get left behind. The solution to all this comes from a story that we all know, the parable of the Good Samaritan. Pope Francis devotes a whole chapter to the Good Samaritan. He says that the striking part of this story isn't just that the Samaritan was an outsider, or that the priest and the Levite, the religious leaders, passed the man by. What's most striking for us today, he says, is that the Samaritan gives the man on the side of the road the gift of his time. While everybody else hurries by, thinking that they're too important to stop, the Good Samaritan prioritizes helping this stranger. He allows himself to have an encounter with this man. And for Pope Francis, building a healthier society starts with an encounter with our neighbors, with people who are different from us, people who are struggling. When we have an encounter with others who are different from us, it starts to make us aware of the larger social issues that cause our brothers and sisters to suffer. We start to see that something in our politics and our social structure needs to change. For Francis, a better politics would recognize the universal destination of goods. It's this idea that comes from the early church that says that our resources aren't for us to hoard, but are to share. That means that it's unconscionable that, for example, some nations waste tons and tons of food while other nations have famines. When there's such a big divide between rich and poor nations, it's natural that people want to leave to pursue better opportunities. Francis is really concerned about what this and our more connected global society in general is doing to local cultures. When everyone feels like they have to learn English or watch American movies in order to succeed in a globalized world, they start to lose their unique cultures. And when they emigrate, it's easy for them to leave their culture behind. For Pope Francis, the ideal situation would be that people feel taken care of and have good opportunities in the places that they're born. But when that isn't the case, it means that we all need to be really intentional about welcoming people, about having real friendships with people who are different from us. If we're only concerned with ourselves or people who are just like us, we can move quickly from not caring about those who are different to finding them to be a nuisance to acting violently against them. The opposite of that movement towards violence is a movement towards peace. This is what Francis calls a culture based on encounter. It involves listening to our struggling brothers and sisters at every level and reimagining the structures that can cause people to suffer. This means giving people our time like the Good Samaritan. And on an international level, it means listening to poor nations, having them at the decision-making table, based on what will be best for all people, not just the powerful. Francis has said that we won't come out of this pandemic and return to normal. We'll either come out better or worse. In Fratelli Tutti, Francis explains how we can come out better, by ridding ourselves of our individualistic attitudes and building a culture of collaboration, dialogue, and encounter. For more coverage of the Pope's new document, Fratelli Tutti, visit americamagazine.org, where you can find podcasts, videos, and articles explaining everything you need to know about the new encyclical. For America Media, I'm Colleen Dulle. Thanks for watching.